From secrets in the new ballistic mode to our favorite new turtle in Chapter 6 already passing away, and even secret Easter eggs foreshadowing collabs from over 7 years ago in OG, here's 50 Easter eggs in Fortnite. Because while the new ballistic mode might be a realistic first-person shooter, in order to compete with other games in the same genre, only a few have noticed that it has a secret Easter egg that directly ties it to the Battle Royale storyline. That's right, not only is this mode's map based on the current Chapter 6 Japan-themed map, but if you take a closer look at the game's Rift device, you'll notice that it's actually a small part of Kevin the Cube. And that's just one of many references in Chapter 6 because Fortnite actually tried to steal the spotlight from one of the most anticipated games ever. We all know GTA 6 is going to be releasing soon, and the hype around the game is pretty massive. So Epic took this opportunity to advertise their brand new Brick Life mode, which is basically a GTA recreation except PG and Lego. They did that by creating a theme teaser nearly identical to that of GTA 6 with the palm trees, the colors, and let me just say it's an incredibly clever marketing decision. But something else that's incredible is Fortnite's oldest villain returning. Let me explain. Well, in Lego Fortnite, they've actually resolved one of the biggest problems within the game, which was having no actual ending, like the Ender Dragon in Minecraft. So what better final boss for them to add other than the Storm King and his biome, a reference to both Save the World and a limited time event that took place in Battle Royale in Fortnitemares 2019. But back in Battle Royale, one of the most beloved additions of Chapter 6 was the giant turtle found near the island's wetlands. Except now he has mysteriously vanished. People thought that Timmy the turtle was dead, but it turns out that isn't the case at all. He can actually be found in different locations around the map as it constantly keeps moving with each game. And while looking for the giant turtle though, you might have come across masked meadows where something strange is now happening. Multiple purple fumes can be seen coming out of the location, and it's assumed by the community that this could be dark magic being practiced in the POI, potentially teasing Kevin the Cube. But to further back this up, if you traverse into the city's underground, you'll realize that there's been something going on there all along. There's actually a secret base built there with big technological advancements that are harnessing magic from masks and releasing it into the surface. So this could be the secret storyline plot being teased with the new character Daigo. And there's another skin which was teased that nobody's noticed, because we already know a handful of the upcoming Winterfest rewards, but in the music cover you can see a bird, who you guessed it is a Christmas skin and could possibly be one of the Winterfest outfits that we see arrive. And speaking of Winterfest, we have two characters who we already have confirmed to be coming. This is the Winterfest Snoop Dogg and Shaquille O'Neal. The text "Get ready for Snoop Dogg on the stoop" was added in the files, which some people will know is a quote from this toy in his merch, meaning that we should see this Santa-ified version of Snoop Dogg arrive. With Chapter 1's return as a permanent mode on a whole other island, Epic still managed to sneak in an Easter egg that few noticed. You may remember last year for the Fortnite OG key art, Fortnite actually showed us the other side of the original Chapter 1 Season 1 key art featuring Jonesy looking behind him to see the time-traveling skins. And now Epic has done it again. In the new key art for Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 1, you can actually see that it's a continuation of the famous supply drop loading screen, and that's something they may continue doing for every Chapter 1 season that's gonna be replayed. And speaking of Chapter 1 and its secrets, another Easter egg that might have caught your attention is available for everyone on the new Chapter 6 island. That's right, simply traverse back to the map's outskirts and you won't help but notice that the big wooden crab from Chapter 1 has made his return. This was part of the many animals built by either wood, brick, or metal back in Chapter 1, and so we can assume this is a neat Easter egg to celebrate Chapter 1's return. And alongside the return of Chapter 1 though, it's likely we're going to see the return of another familiar face, which is being teased with a new skin. Of course, I'm talking about everyone's favorite Peely, who Epic can't stop making new skins for. It's almost guaranteed every season he's bound to get a new one, and this time is no exception, because in game you can find a small secret on the clothing of the Kendo skin, and it looks to be a cucumber Peely. He even has his emote in the battle pass where he slices up some cucumbers, so this definitely looks to be a teaser for a new skin coming soon. And the Chapter 1 references don't end there though, as on the Chapter 6 map lies a huge trap that is a callback to one of the most popular Chapter 1 moments. While exploring the new island, you might have come across a hill with a classic sign from Chapter 1. These told players not to dance, but back then if you did it, there were no consequences. But now, the inhabitants of the island have stepped it up, because if you emote now, you're going to be launched off the hill to your inevitable death. And something else true OGs are bound to remember is a small detail on a classic weapon that's making its return. Epic heard our prayers and are giving us all the OG models for the OG weapons in the new OG game mode. And with that, an iconic reference could now be found again on the TAC shotgun. Take a look at it and you'll realize that it still has the same snake game on its little iPad after 5 entire years. In addition to the return of that, we almost have nearly every OG model of weapon back. The revolver, pump, but that also includes Fortnite's very own guided missile. Files related to it have have now been updated, so we could expect to see it coming to OG soon. It was originally added in Chapter 1 Season 3, so in about 3 months time, give or take, it may be coming. Because as you can see, Chapter 6 is full of its references, and there's many lying inside of the new POIs. There's dozens from Whiffy Wharf to Lost Lake, Night Shift Force, Shogun Solitude, you get the idea. But if you head over to the Thousand Faces shop over at Masked Meadows, you'll spot that there's many masks referencing different Fortnite characters. You can see Cluck, a Kitsune mask hinting at Catalyst, Fishstick, Meowscles, and even some new ones. But the most notable mask of them all is teasing a brand new outfit. You might remember a leaked survey skin from a while back showing a baboon skin. And now you can spot his mask alongside the other familiar characters, so it's an indication we should see his skin very soon. And what we could also be seeing soon is a new iconic crossover with one of the most successful animated franchises ever. In a new line of dialogue by the Empress Mizuki NPC, she references a dragon warrior, and you might already know where this is going. This could very well be foreshadowing the arrival of Kung Fu Panda as a collab in Fortnite. How a post skin would work is a concern to many people, but we're already seeing the Godzilla skin, so it's clear Epic can make anything do, and it remains to be seen whether or not this is actually gonna happen. But a big reference, however, to one of Chapter 1's most dazzling mysteries is hidden in the Twinkle Terrace POI. If you happen to pay a visit, you'll see that in it there's a house fully dedicated to one of Fortnite's oldest factions, the Fox Clan. Inside you'll find references to all their members like drift flags with the outline of others such as V, Vox, Kimiko, Five Tails, and even their pet Kitsune. The craziest part is that it was foreshadowed years ago in the V loading screen, where we see members of the Fox Clan running around in an unknown POI. And after all this time, we finally got this place. But another reference to the Chapter 1 story is that of the mysterious artifact that's fallen from the sky into the Chapter 6 map. In its place, you could find a crater referencing the events of the meteor from Chapter 1, but the artifact itself is nowhere to be found just yet. So it looks like this will be something we have to keep an eye on for throughout the entire season. The strange object wasn't the only thing that crashed on the map though, as by the looks of it, Fortnite's already referenced Chapter 2 Remix. Traversing the new snow mountains, you might have come across a strange crashed plane. Not only is it a reference to Chapter 2 Remix, which we just left, but also a callback to Chapter 5 as well, where we saw a similar crashed plane atop snowy mountains, which now leads players to think that there's somehow a connection between the three and their recurring appearances. Another connection many people notice is that of a similarity between a new POI and one from Fortnite Chapter 3. You might have seen Hopeful Heights or even visited it, which is a brand new location themed entirely around our new protagonist, Hope, and players couldn't help but notice that this is very similar to the time that Jonesy got his own whole POI themed around him back in Chapter 3 in the form of the Joneses. This is a pretty neat callback considering Jones has been a mentor to Hope for the last 4 seasons. And now you could even find both of them living under the same roof, plotting their next move on the new island. But beneath the island, you can also find a hidden basement with a few interesting Easter eggs from Chapter 2. The one you won't help but instantly spot is the gnome from Chapter 2, who had once taken over another similar basement as his base of operations, and now he's done it again. In the same room, you could also find Midas's gold share, which we have no idea how it ended up here, but it's cool to see nonetheless. And it's not the only secret place in Chapter 6, as by driving around the map, you should come across a huge tunnel that's being built underneath a mountain. So it looks like there will be construction going on for the rest of this season. But if you take a look off in the distance, you won't be able to miss another enormous snow mountain that stands high and mighty. At first, many people speculated this was a volcano that would lead to the chapter's end event, but after a more careful look, you'll realize this is actually a reference to the infamous Japanese mountain, Mount Fuji, and what better map for it to be on than this one. But something many people forget is there was another map with lots of similar references, which was the Chapter 4 map with its mega biome. A prime example is the new lighthouse in Chapter 6, which is actually identical to the ones we saw in Chapter 4. And it makes sense as this island is actually the same place that the mega biome was rifted in from the Chapter 4 map, where you can see buildings coming in the trailer. There's another returning landmark from Chapter 4, and it wouldn't be a proper map if we didn't have it here for Winterfest. Of course, I'm talking about none other than Crackshot Cabin, which was also in Chapters 1 and 2, so it looks like it's just too iconic to be removed. But there's another artifact from Chapter 4 that's made its return, and this one is arguably the most important and hilarious at the same time. You may recall coming across some strange fog statues back in Chapter 4 and especially around the mega biome. Now we know where they originated from because there's a landmark called Fighting Frogs featuring a small dojo and multiple frog statues both watching and fighting within the arena. Speaking of frogs though, another important return to the Chapter 6 map is the frog family from Chapter 5. After everything that we saw them go through last season, it looks like they survived to tell the tale and are all living happily in a small hill similar to their own from the last map. So we should keep an eye on them in the next few updates. But on the other side of the map, over at the night shift forest where it's always night, there's actually a secret way to restore sunlight to the location. That's right, because you simply need to find one of the new sprites that run around the map and bring it to Bushranger, who's an NPC at the location. Upon doing so, sunlight will be restored, and you'll even be granted a key to open a secret vault door found at the POI. But speaking of other locations on the map, have you noticed anything peculiar within them? Because I'm referring to the new robot servants that have been seen across the whole map. They seem to be running everything around the island, from office jobs to even simple care of houses, so it looks like the inhabitants of the island evolved enough for them to fully automate everything inside. And speaking of automated things, another thing you're unlikely to have noticed is the new auto collect feature within the battle pass. Correct, because battle stars are now a thing of the past, as they've been replaced by universal XP, allowing you to progress every Fortnite pass simultaneously. You can automate the reward collection process in the battle pass page, and it will work precisely like it used to back in chapter 1, by collecting everything in order and without you needing to claim every single reward one by one. Speaking of chapter 1, a couple of years back, a very iconic meme was created, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. In the early days of chapter 1, you could find a meme of Peter Griffin dropping in on the chapter 1 island, and when the skin was added a year ago, we were close to making it a reality. And lucky for us now, he's back with OG Fortnite again, so a few players saw the opportunity, and now you can successfully recreate it in-game. Another iconic reference in the chapter 1 map right now foreshadowed a collab that was released years later. Near Retail Row stands the infamous Truckosaurus that initially was speculated to be Optimus Prime. The actual collab was added later in chapter 4 season 3 in Wilds, and it turns out that the Retail Row truck statue had always been foreshadowing it this entire time. Now with the chapter 1 map, you could revisit it as Optimus Prime himself, which is crazy to think how far Fortnite's come. And another good example of this is another reference. This one you may remember, as theories about it were very popular in the early days. I'm of course talking about the giant footprint on top of the destroyed house by Greasy Grove. The community had crazy theories for this, like it being a teaser for a Leviathan mode, which never ended up happening, or that it was a teaser for a popular character to come to the game. And they were entirely right. 7 full years later, and the OG map was returned just in time, with the Godzilla skin now being the secret battle pass outfit. Once it releases, players will have to step there while wearing Godzilla to recreate it, even though he's not size accurate. But speaking of accuracy, there's an item in Fortnite OG that's now been entirely nerfed. The Slurp Juice received a massive buff in chapter 4 where it was now legendary and healed gradually up to 100 health and shield. But even before that, it was purple and healed 75 health in total. But now, since we're back to chapter 1 season 1, OGs will know that while they nerfed it, Epic made Slurp Juice extremely accurate, as it now only heals 25 shield and 25 health, and it does so very slowly, just like the OG days. Other weapons, however, have received buffs and even more accurate details, like grenades, who have now been added back to the game, with their damage being 100 yet again, after it was nerfed to 40 a while back. What's even crazier about this though is that their icon is the same one they used back in the original season 1, which is something no one expected, and tells us Epic really paid attention to the smallest details. One thing they sadly missed though is that you can't carry 10 grenades as you originally could, so they might have forgotten. Something they didn't forget though is a small detail that made chapter 1 infinitely better, and now it's all back. For years now, the weapons in Fortnite lost their color because Rarity Glow wasn't as vibrant as it used to be. But now that is literally part of the past, because the OG weapon glow from chapter 1's returned, meaning when you get that golden scar from a chest, you'll finally be able to use it and see it in all of its glory. Not as glorious is the new set of traps, which now come in blue. That's right, in case you've been confused about spike traps making a return in rare rarity, it's because that's how they actually used to be in season 1, right before they became an uncommon item, and we came to know them, so it's honestly pretty cool Epic didn't forget this little detail. Another thing they didn't forget though was one of chapter 1's most wholesome yet hilarious additions, because if you remember back in the day, if you went to places like Retail and Lonely Lodge, you could come across the infamous dancing fish. When you dance right near them, they would suddenly start dancing alongside you and even play their own music. Not only are they back now, but they're also part of the quest for the OG mode, just like they used to be. What you might have noticed though is the current weapon stats for Fortnite OG, and let me say, some of these are ridiculously accurate. The Scar and even the regular assault rifle can hit up to 70 for a headshot, because at the time Epic didn't know how powerful those headshot damage numbers were, so they brought back the true experience. And even the pump can one-shot a player at any rarity, even the gray one, and send them straight to the lobby with a headshot. The highlight of the re-added weapons is definitely the sound when you pick up an item, which is a sound that many find nostalgic about, and yes, Epic decided to bring it back. Other ambient sounds from chapter 1 have also returned around the map, and if you listen closely you might hear it, and it makes the entire experience a lot more worthwhile when you play. There was, however, something a lot of players were disappointed about, including myself, and that's Epic forgetting to add a special weapon in a season like this. For those who are unaware, Season 1 was the season where we got the Zapatron weapon first introduced, and it was only in the game for 1 hour, as Epic deemed it way too powerful for BR. Since we're starting from Season 1, it's a huge missed opportunity that Epic didn't add it into the game, since now everyone's way more skilled and the Zapatron wouldn't be as effective against players. But players were also very unhappy last year when the map had inaccurate POIs like the Fatal Field's missing house and instead reusing a barn in its place, or Tilted Towers missing its iconic central building, or the pirate outpost facing different directions. These were all mistakes, but this time Epic has somehow managed to do it again. Although it's a very small lapse in change, if you visit Flush Factory, you'll notice Epic accidentally added the toilet props from the Season 9 version, which look super futuristic and out of place. And also out of place are some of the icons and weapons. For the most part, Epic did a really great job at bringing back the old icons and models of weapons like the grenades mentioned before, but they also failed at some. Fortnite's most iconic weapon, the Scar, doesn't use its OG model nor its icon, but rather the Chapter 2 one. It's the same case for the legendary RPG and bolt action sniper. The regular AR, on the other hand, has its OG model, but its icon displays the Chapter 2 version, so it begs the question why Epic was really careful with certain weapons but not so much with others. And speaking of snipers though, a not so OG change regarding them is that even though we're in Chapter 1, they still have their glint. This is the little shine you see, and in an open environment like the Season 1 map, they can easily be spotted from miles away, but beware as it can be very deadly and send you back to the lobby. There's still a chance for you to be saved, however, because reboot vans are still a thing right now. These are one of the few quality of life changes Epic kept, and we'll get to more of those in a second, but while rebooting you may even notice that you can move, a change that was implemented in Chapter 5, yet it's still around now, as it really improves the rebooting experience and makes it less of a chore. And another change that's less of a chore from Chapter 1 Season 1 is that of the new healing animations. That's right, because you could still move freely while using your heals, something that wasn't a part of Fortnite OG last year and is a bold move from Epic. Not only that, but while using a shield potion, bandage, or medkit, they're visible in your hands, while OGs will remember that never was a thing back in the day. Instead, your character would simply use their hands with nothing appearing, which just felt like an unfinished animation, so in my opinion, this is better, but still inaccurate. And the same could be said for the new movement, which not only has different animations than in Chapter 1, but Epic's also made sprinting, sliding, and mantling available. I don't know what you think about it, but it was something they also did last year after popular demand of the new movement staying in order for the game to feel faster and not nearly as slow as it used to be. However, something they did remove is all the new movement features that came with Chapter 6, which shows they didn't want to complicate movement even more. So don't count on wall kicking or barrel rolling. Things are about to get very complex though with the return of a weapon that hasn't been seen in ages in Fortnite. The weapon I'm talking about here is of course none other than the guided missile that was first added in Chapter 1 Season 3. And ever since then, it had been in a constant cycle of being removed and re-added because it was breaking the game and Epic didn't know how to permanently fix it. So they just removed it from everywhere, even creative. But this time around, it looks like it's back to stay because Epic's already working on it again and they're preparing it for the Season 3 update in about 6 months. What everyone has been wondering though is what's going to happen to the OG mode when Season X ends, and it looks like we may already have an answer to that. In the new blog post for the OG mode, Epic stated that we'll be replaying the original initial seasons of Chapter 1. This has led many to believe that after Season X ends, this could simply imply we'll replay an accurate version of all the Chapter 2 seasons. However, some thought outside the box, and maybe this is a huge implication that after Season X, Epic will be making new seasons for the Chapter 1 map, meaning we might get Season 11 and onwards, which would actually be kinda insane. And what we'll also be seeing again are Chapter 1 live events. Rumors are spreading that Epic sent a document to creators such as Tim the Tatman where they seemingly confirm that all the Chapter 1 live events will be replayed.
Also in the document they sent over, it says there is going to be the live events again.
This is absolutely massive, as we'll once again be able to relive the rocket event, the cube rolling the loot lake, and the Ice King snowstorm, and even the black hole in Season X. That's been 50 secret details in Fortnite. Like and subscribe for more.